Hi everyone, this is Greg, aka Gregoire from Greg's Whisky Guide, the website and the YouTube channel. This is a series about Scotch single malts or Scotch whiskies of different kinds, which is the case here. And we're going from A to D letters for now. But don't worry, if you like Springbank or Lagavulin, you might see these not too late in the year. And honestly, I might be wider in my cutting of the letters during the rest of the year. So I might do now I'm doing an A to D letters, then I might do a D to G, and then probably an L to Z or to V in order to cover more whiskies and to authorize myself to pick letters that are not necessarily following others. Right, about this whiskey, we're going to be covering, by the way, ARBIKIE. Let me show you. ARBIKIE Highland Rye from Scotland. Yes, you're hearing well, it is from Scotland and it is a rye. The first rye from this craft family-owned small distillery, the ARBIKIE Distillery, that is made for 100 years, something like 100 years in Scotland. And this way I learned that Scottish rye was very important back in the days, and it's only 100 years that people decided to give up with this cereal and to switch to barley only, and of course corn and other cereals to do blended whiskies. But for the main thing these last 100 years we had mainly malted barley and corn, basically in Scotland. So this is very experimental, this is quite unusual, and I believe for now it is unique to Scotland to produce this kind of whiskey, despite we have seen Johnny Walker Blenders a batch special experimental edition to do a rye, which I haven't the chance to try yet. But and also some rye finishes, but despite these we didn't see a full, let's say, or almost full single grain devoted to rye, the most possible devoted to rye production. So the story begins for me meeting this brand by my curiosity, because I visited Scotland in 2018. I wanted to visit a lot of craft distilleries, but I couldn't make it everywhere. It was a journey I won, which was the different steps were a bit scheduled at this or that hotel or bed and breakfast into Scotland, going north from Edinburgh and going north, so I couldn't go everywhere I wanted and switch. We had to rent a car, etc. So I couldn't go as far as this distillery was, because this distillery in fact is in the east. Oops, sorry, let me see. Yeah, it's really in the East Highlands. I wrote somewhere between Dundee and Aberdeen, in between, and a few kilometers from the sea. So it's very it's a very okay, again I forgot my English, sorry, apologies for that. So there's not mountains and stuff, so it's very flat, that's what I mean, sorry. The story begins in 2018, while the distillery knew I was interested in trying their whiskey. It is still whiskey, but they plan to do a single malt later on. We have to wait still quite some years, I think, probably 10. If it's still working as it was planned, I don't know. But for now, the distillery, and I'm going to go short to those examples I have. This is a family-owned distillery by the brothers, the Stirling brothers, founded in 2015, around 2,100 to 50,100 liters per year of pure alcohol. Basically, yeah, it's a single estate, so you go from, they are also a farm, so they do their own cereals, and then they distill them, they mature or not there, and they bottle them there. So it's like a, say, single estate, or like they say from what was the, sorry, that's when you plan to do everything okay and then you forget. Yeah, there was an expression they used. I'm gonna find it maybe on the, forget it. Sorry about that again. So they do vodka, they do flavored vodka, they do two kinds of gin. One that's very green, made of peas, and which is with a very low carbon imprint. And they do and they do this rye. They have a semi-lauter-ton to work all these, 4 washbacks and 2 small stills, and also a column still with a 40-plate rectifier. So what else can I say? In 2018, I received this very generous sample, you can see here, with this Highland Rye, which was selected from 3 casks, cask 9, 11 and 16, distilled in 2015. And this single grain Scotch whiskey, bottled at 46%, no color, no chill filtration, was, yeah, sown, grown, nurtured, harvested and bottled at ARBIKIE Distilling in Inverkillor Arbroath, sorry for my pronunciation, Angus in Scotland. So this one a duty paid sample, not for sale. And for the first one, the recipe was they used Arantes Scottish Rye variety. Then they use a 52%, and they use Viscount Scottish Wheat 33%, and Odyssey Scottish malted barley from 15%. The casks were charred American oak, and then they were, like they say, enriched, so we have to understand the finishing, in Pedro Ximenez barrels. So this was the first edition. And in early 2020, but it was distilled last year, at the end of last year, they did produce a 4 years old of this Highland Rye. And my big surprise in the post, the beginning of the year, was to not to receive an already very satisfying 20 cl sample, but directly the bottle. So I immediately ask myself what I'm gonna do with this, because question is, will the review will be necessarily and automatically biased or not? Shall I refuse it and send it back? Considering the problems of the post, and it's even worse now, and also the effort made to send me this, it wasn't very reasonable to send it back, and also without tasting it, it was a bit stupid, I think. So I accepted the gift, and they already know. I told them I'm not going to be automatically praising what they do, because it is offered. And also, like I said, I'm gonna try to be the most honest possible. I'm gonna do a written review later on. I'm gonna wait a while before that, probably a few months or a couple of weeks, because the thing that happened was the same as with the sample, is that, and it's the case, I have to say, often for American whiskies. I'm not crazy about this notion of neck pour and stuff, but this is one of the most difficult tasting I had with this one and with a previous one as well, because they're not behaving like your standard Scotch, which can be super rich at the beginning and a bit less interesting after, or most often open up after a few pours. This one is 4 tastings, and I think it hasn't completely settled down yet and developed and oxygened yet. I left it more than an hour open. I also poured me the dram, I don't know now, 20 minutes before, and I think it still deserves time, so I'm gonna give a rating at the end, but please take it with a great pinch of salt, even half a bottle of salt. And don't really like to give ratings when it's this case, and this is very difficult, but I'm gonna tell you what I think honestly, and I hope the distillery won't be too much disappointed. But it's what I feel, and I have to tell the audience what I feel. And as I already talked about this bottle earlier on this year, and as a surprise, and it is a surprise and a wonderful gift, so I have to be the most honest possible. Does the recipe has changed from last year's? No, but you know, this comes with a fancy small page or leaflet showing the family here. Yeah, the 3 brothers. I like this idea of family owned and very genuine production. It comes with a number here with a code, and there's all the workers there. You can see all things are made on site. You can see the warehouse. You can see the stills, which are special. The pot stills look a bit like not cognac, but you know, cognac, Armagnac, and maybe so what's the problem with the whiskey? Considering the recipe is the same, which is 52% rye, 33% wheat, 12% barley, so this time there is no Pedro Ximenez cask finish, but there's 3 months of Armagnac cask finish. And I know a bit Armagnac now. I know better than 5-10 years ago, Armagnac and cognac. I had several ones in my collection. This is a spirit I like a lot. This is distilled only once, while cognac is twice and whiskies from 2 to 3 most of the time. And in Scotland it's mostly 2 distillations. And I have to say this one is very difficult, and it was even more difficult to assess than the previous one. The previous one I rated it around 80 the first time, and it 86 2 or 3 pours after, and it's the half of the bottle. It's a spectacularly dramatically open up, and all the notes I didn't like, they were going off, and then I really got this beautiful rye thing developing, and a bit of the wheat as well, and really the oak that was very loud was a bit going on background, and I even finally put it in my top 2018 awards list as a hope, a new distillery hope, and it got 90.5 out of 100 to my own surprise. But for now, this one I still have to wait, but I think it's enough to cover now, at least with a temporary rating. But right from the start, the nose was different. So there it is. no caramel coloring, no chill filtration. So very genuine distillery, honestly. So yeah, the price, I have to give you the price, or you're gonna kill me. But you're gonna kill me even more when I'm gonna tell you that, as this is a very tiny production, 100, 2020 bottles, and there are only 4 casks, as you can see. Everything is transparent here. Sorry. There you go. Yeah. So this is confirmed here, and I asked them for the duration and the recipe, which is not stated here. And they kindly answered. Yeah, 2,050 pounds for this one. It's a bit, it's a very expensive, but it's a kind of inaugural bottling last year and even this year. New distilleries starting a really experimental adventure. I don't know what else to say. It is still very expensive. It is too expensive for the medium audience, the most of the audience, let's say. I would have bought the mini probably if it was out, but not at even at 80 euros I wouldn't have gone for that. So I'm happy to have it, but I have to be honest. So yeah, there's still, every time I pour it, if I wait a week or two, it is different. So this is encouraging, because I didn't like the first pour at all. For me, it was flowed. There was a great problem with the distillation, the cut, probably, and I didn't understand why they did that compared to the previous one that was a real success. So I still have some, what I will call in my experience, off notes, but they're probably not off notes, but something I'm not used to. And this recalls me a bit some Loch Lomond, which were difficult to assess, with a very special note, and I still get it here. Yeah, so I have fresh sawdust, fresh cut wood, sawdust, a lot of it, less than in the beginning, hopefully, fortunately, I mean. I have some dried fruit, some red dried fruit, and spices coming from the rye. There's a huge wheat impact. I wonder if they shouldn't push further the rye and lower the wheat and put more barley, and maybe even, I'm going to surprise you, transform it to a blended whiskey with probably, it's easy to say, I know, I'm not the maker. Who I am to tell the master distiller, etc. It's just an opinion. Sorry guys, sorry. Me, I will put 30% of probably corn to sweeten this up and to let it really integrate more. I don't know, but of course it wouldn't be more than 50% rye, so we will lose something. So I understand they want to do something like a straight rye, the Scottish way. So yeah, obviously this one is closer to an American rye whiskey than to a single malt and even a single grain from Scotland in terms of aromatic profile. We're going to see that further. This is closer also to what Dry Fly does with the triticale, which is a mix and hybrid of cereal of, and I have a bottle here, which was difficult as well in terms of enjoying it. And it starts to develop now. Same problem as this one, by the way. So these whiskies need a lot of time, a lot of air. If you have a decent kind of air in your room or where you store it, you won't have cooking odors of stuff. and smells and very different parasiting flavor, odors, smells in the place where we store the bottle. If you invest in this bottle, this kind of bottle, please let it probably now, let's say half a day, the cork open. And I'm gonna do it now, by the way, for the next time. But the review is almost finished, and I'm not under 20 minutes. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so basically I have this strange note that putting me a bit off, this kind of linen or yeah, almost cardboardy, honestly. Almost kind of felt. Yeah, this kind of felt note. What some will call, I think, confectionery. Still, there's some esters coming through. And the rye that is coming on, but it needs so much time. It's very weird, very strange experience. Okay, it's time now to cheers. Yeah, it has even evolved since last week. Yeah, so this still, this strange note, felt, linen oil, linen canvas, even because I'm a painter. You know, the canvas you use to do paintings when it's not yet prepared to be painted. There's still some kind of smell. There's also the, yeah, so between felt and linen, and so very unusual. And then topped by the rye, fortunately, and some gentle spices. The very overpowering fresh sawdust wood note is gone. It was a bit unbearable, honestly. So I'm still optimistic the whiskey is gonna evolve the good way, but it's unusual. It's a very special profile. I can only recommend this whiskey to very connoisseur people and to people that will be patient, that will give the whiskey the time it deserves to open up. And I might come back to you with the second part of this when the bottle will be even more, you know, this level or the half, if it evolves the way I want it to evolve, like the previous sample did evolve positively, I mean. So yeah, still this note that's really hard for me to enjoy, honestly. And but some, even a nutty side on it. Gonna put some water, see if it changes. Honestly, once again, I don't think it's flowed, even but I think it's a very special kind of wheat and rye. It's not the typical American rye. So my opinion is probably difficult to take into account, because I think the cereals and the result of distillation of the cereal are probably very different from the ones we know in Northern America. So I'm a bit disturbed by this. So let's try with a few drops. Still the same note. I won't even advise to put some water, honestly. It's this weird note is even more pronounced. You gotta forget, honestly, To enjoy this, you gotta forget everything you know about whiskey. So it's a tough one. I'm gonna change again the note. So we're still indirect here. Yeah, I think it's more realistic. So I have to tell you guys, people, I started 65 out of 100. Yeah, so I don't think it's a biased review. And after 4 times, my not final, mind you, not final, but my intermediate, but I think a bit stable, will be 79 out of 100 for now. I don't know if it's gonna evolve positively, but I had to give some feedback to you because I talked about this, and also because the distillery sent me this in the beginning of the year, and I don't want to make them too much wait. The only thing which will be really a complaint for me, and I'm serious, it's I think the 3 months of Armagnac finish doesn't almost play anything in there. It's more a gimmick than something I will take seriously. I'm sorry. I would have even preferred they use the same PX Sherry Pedro Ximenez like for the previous version, bringing more sweetness, more red fruit. So yeah, I would have preferred they did that. Yet if someone wants to taste it and visit me, no problem, because it's a privilege to have something rare like that. The only Highland Scottish rye whiskey in there. What can I say? The video is already too long. If you have the occasion to try this, not paying too much, if you are a bit experienced in whiskey, try it. Otherwise, maybe wait for this to be aged longer, maybe a change of recipe in several years. But yeah, thanks again for the distillery. I appreciate the effort, and I will give you some feedback later on when the bottle will be a bit more oxygenated. And thank you everybody who's watching, and I promise the next one will be shorter. Okay, bye bye.